and now he's a Yonko. Also, I'd like to take a moment to appreciate how Alvida is now a Yonko commander, as is Galdino, aka Mr. 3. I'd love to see Crocodile's reaction to this. Being a commander of a Yonko crew, it's pretty likely that Galdino could have a higher bounty than him right now.
Oh, that's a bit of a bold assumption you've got going on there, Dawn. Hello, humans of the world. I'm Dawn of the world, and I get things wrong. Welcome aboard. I could not be happier to have been presumptuous and wrong about this, because having Crocodile as part of Buggy's Yonko crew alongside Mr. 3 is so much funnier than any scenario where he's not. And now I'm just wondering how this happened. As Zoro, who has actually spent more time living with Mihawk than he has with Luffy, mind you, said, I can't imagine Hawkeye doing that. And I can't imagine Crocodile doing that either, and yet through some circusy shenanigans, it has occurred. But let's look a little bit more into Buggy, shall we? He's known as the bombastic clown, which is potentially a very weighted epithet. From the first day that we met Buggy, he's always been a flashy boy. That's his favourite word. Bombastic seems to be an accurate signifier. Also, we don't know the details as to how it is that he became a Yonko, and at the moment it feels like a bit of a joke, and why wouldn't it be? But at the same time, why would Mihawk and Crocodile join him if it weren't serious? His status as a supernova was treated and read as a joke, and it seems impossible to talk about this clown these days without the phrase falling upwards being dropped. And this implies that none of his success truly comes through any merit of his own, and that the ongoing joke is that this literal clown of a character, stuff just keeps happening to him and he keeps being placed in more and more a powerful position. Kind of reminds me of that gif of the old dude on the escalator. And well, Buggy being a Yonko is hilarious. That's the best thing I've ever heard. But I think that there is more to it than what we realize. I've personally suspected for a long time that, well, Buggy being a former Roger pirate who ran off to East Blue with a 15 million belly bounty. Granted, 15 million is very high for East Blue. I've always felt like he was a character who had never realized his true potential. That we've never seen what Buggy is truly capable of, and that Buggy has never seen what Buggy is truly capable of. Well, they say everyone's gangster until Buggy D. Clown goes awakening. And it's possible that at some point during the Wano saga, Luffy wasn't the only one to have awakened his awakening. And if Buggy were to awaken his fruit, that could be something. I've always imagined him splitting something big, like say the Red Line, in the same way that he appeared to be splitting the gate back during Marineford. There's a true potential that I'd never even considered before I saw somebody post it on Twitter, and unfortunately I lost the thread, so I'm not sure who the Twitter person was. But that's the idea of forget about the big stuff. This is the idea of Buggy splitting something very, very small. This is the idea of Buggy splitting an atom, which he quite hypothetically would be able to do in his awakened state. And splitting an atom in the right circumstances would certainly live up to his title of bombastic. And in conjunction with this massive organization he seems to be running, it definitely set him up as a worthy Yonko. All that being said, I don't think the extent of Buggy's power lies solely in the Barabara no Mi. For one thing, Kaido stressed the importance of Haki over any fruit ability, and this was backed up nicely with Shanks's unbelievable display of Conqueror's Haki last chapter. I feel like all the major players from this point onwards will either have Haki or develop it at some point. I even have an old video about who in the crew, out of who doesn't have Haki yet, will awaken what kind of Haki, if you're interested in that. So I think it's possible that Buggy will or may already have developed some kind of Haki, though I don't really have concrete enough evidence at this point to make anything more than an educated guess. But all of this discussion and speculating aside, we already have the most certain evidence that Buggy possesses the most dangerous ability in the world. I mentioned it in an earlier chapter review, but this chapter has just completely hit it home, with Mihawk, the very person who specified this ability years ago, now working under Buggy. This was during Marineford, when Mihawk said that Luffy possessed the most dangerous ability, as he was able to get virtually anyone to ally with him and fight on his side. And while this is absolutely true about Luffy, at the very same time, Buggy was unintentionally doing the exact same thing. And now Buggy is a Yonko with a plethora of past antagonists, including people that would seem a lot more powerful than him fighting on his side. At this point, I think he has at least 3 former Baroque members working under under him. Of course, there's Galdino and Crocodile, but then Crocodile and Dustbond seem to be a bit of a package deal, so I presume Dustbonds is there as well. The thing with Buggy though is that unlike Luffy, up until this point he's been seen as a joke. As an audience at least, we haven't taken him nearly as seriously. As such, in and out of universe, he's really been able to fly under the radar for such a flashy guy. And it's only now when he's all but made it to the top of the world that people are starting to notice. And it's so interesting that specifically Mihawk and Crocodile are working under him. Mihawk for the most dangerous ability reasons that I just specified, and Crocodile because he honestly has all kinds of trust issues. He doesn't trust anybody, so I doubt he trusts Buggy, and he doesn't seem like the kind of man who would serve under anyone. I mean, he named himself Mr. Zero for goodness sake. And yet, here he is. There's a very interesting story here. Also, I just want to appreciate the fact that when I first read Alabasta 12 years ago, I never would have guessed that Crocodile would one day be serving under Buggy. We did it, Buggy Nation. And can I just say that putting bounties on the Marines' heads is the most hilarious thing. It's like the second that Buggy's Shichibukai status was revoked and his bounty was reinstated, and very likely increased from 15 million, he was like, oh hell no, what if I put a bounty on you instead? How would you like that? Honestly, I can't believe no one else has done this before. He's such an icon. Moving on a little bit, I got really excited to see some of our new world map in this chapter, though I think Oda may have kind of put it upside down, which really disorientated me a bit. I wasn't alone in this though. There was the Dark Side of Snow on Reddit who helped clarify things. And this confirmed that of the two blues on the either side of the new world, the blue that is very close to where the Straw Hats are headed, since this island is hugging up against the Calm Belt, and Oda has gone out of his way to show us this, is a West Blue. If you haven't watched my West Blue theory video yet, please do so when you can. There is an absolutely crazy untapped amount of potential there. Keep in mind we're in Wano right now. There's a high amount of chance that Frankie has added Sea Stone to the bottom of the ship. That's all I'm saying for now. Check out the video if you want to hear more. Anyway, let's move along. I have to move a little bit quickly because somebody is coming over shortly to help me deconstruct this loft bed so that they can have it. Yes, this is the last loft bed video. But is this the last Carrot chapter for the time being? Man, between her and Momonosuke, we really do love putting children in charge of nations now, don't we? Anyway, are you guys ready for this? I'm gonna say something that is somewhat controversial. I like Carrot, and I think that at least for a time, there was a lot of evidence to support her joining the crew, regardless of whether that's changed. And the reason why I say this is because I see people online who, even though things may have changed, they hold on to this seemingly popular opinion that the idea of Carrot joining the Straw Hats never had any kind of weight to it. And it's kind of become this echo chamber opinion that there was never any evidence that Carrot was going to join the Straw Hats. Regardless of anybody's feelings towards Carrot, for a time, especially for those of us who are caught up, there were a lot of signs to support her joining the crew. I reread Whole Cake Island recently and I was shocked, not just at how prominent she was, but how much emphasis was put on certain aspects of her character and her dynamic with the crew, to the point where I feel like there may have been an initial plan for Carrot and that changed, or that there is something that may be yet to occur, whether it assumes a grand fleet shape or something else. It's easy, of course, to compare this to the Vivi and Robin situation in Alabasta, and while it does seem similar on the surface, if you approach it with more nuance, it's really not the same. Maybe in the future I'll do a Carrot discussion video because there's a lot to talk about here. It's not going to be some, oh, she should have joined the crew rant. I just want to discuss some of the choices that were made concerning her character arc. For one thing, Perospero told Carrot to go back to where she's from and eat some grass or something to that effect, and now that's essentially what she's doing. So if this is seen through and nothing else happens, this is gonna feel like a really bizarre choice to me. And depending on where she goes from here, depending on the whole Pedro aspect, I might want to elaborate a little bit more. And I understand that there's people who don't like Carrot, they just want her to leave the story, but that doesn't diminish the questions that some of us have surrounding her character arc, because regardless of anybody's feelings, these are some fairly legitimate questions that I may or may not be asking too soon. I should probably just shut up and let Oda do his thing. Anyway, Anyway, it's silly that I have to specify this right now, but I like Yamato too. There's this weird terminally online notion that there's certain characters where if you like one character, you're almost not allowed to like the other. It's the weirdest logic to me. Carrot and Yamato are one example of this, another example being Zoro and Sanji, and I like all of these characters. And I know there's people in the online community who kind of perpetuate this idea. They further enable these echo chambers, and they almost encourage fans of one character to dislike the other. But I'm here to say that you are allowed to like both. You're allowed to like Carrot and Yamato at the same time. You're allowed to like Zoro and Sanji at the same time as well. If you happen to dislike one of these characters for different reasons, that's absolutely fine. But don't let your like for one of these characters dictate your dislike for another one of these characters. That's just silly. Carrot and Yamato haven't even interacted, and yet here we are. Oh, and lastly, before I go deconstruct this old bed, Pluton is trapped away in Wano. I have a bit of a theory for how it got there. Sorry, I'm not meaning to recommend a gazillion videos this week. It's just kind of happening. I've got a lot of thoughts happening. Luffy doesn't want the Pluton. The only way to release Pluton from Wano's clutches would be to collapse the wall that's built up around the nation. A feat that would definitely be possible for a user of the Gura Gura no Mi. And Karibo here can't wait to tell a certain somebody about the Pluton. I'm not saying that this certain someone is Blackbeard, but he is an option that would be very catastrophic if he were to get his hands on it. This would give Frankie and Robin an excuse to construct a counter Pluton. Blackbeard would very likely want the Pluton, and he completely and single-handedly possesses the means for extracting it. Anyway, I need to go. Say bye-bye Loftbed, you've been good. I'm Dawn of the World, and I will see you next time. I'm not sure where the next video will take place from, but we'll wait and see. Bye guys!